I used to wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning, drive on a dark freeway, teach hot yoga back to back before most people had even eaten breakfast. Then I would drive another 20 minutes to my landscape architecture office, where I would then sit at my desk until the evening. Then I would drive, walk, cook, sleep, repeat. That was my life. And the craziest thing is, I thought I was enjoying myself. Despite this Zen yoga mindset I was trying to have, busyness had still become my entire personality. I measured my self-worth based on how much I accomplished, how fast I replied to emails, how quickly I finished deliverables, how I could go above and beyond to impress my team. Does this sound familiar? Then COVID happened, I got laid off, and I decided to take a break from the office life. However, I was still working 6 different jobs just to make ends meet and save a little bit for my Roth IRA. Then I decided I need a break. I went to Italy with nothing more than a backpack. Naturally, I fell in love. We started doing long distance, and then I moved to Italy and my whole system exploded. I'm Ambi. I've been living in Naples since 2022, and I want to share with you about what happens when you slow down for long enough that a different pace of life becomes your norm. And I'm not talking about the romanticized version we see on Instagram. I'm talking about real life. I also want to share the part where it felt deeply uncomfortable before it felt good. And I need to be upfront with you. As a first generation Indian American, I am a serial overachiever, and I'm honestly still working through this, but I have made so much progress in respect to when I first arrived here. This is the part that most wellness content skips entirely. The first few months are uncomfortable because when you shift dramatically from a very fast-paced American lifestyle to a slower-paced Italian lifestyle, something's gonna feel wrong because your nervous system is used to being in overdrive, constant fight or flight, and all of a sudden, you got time. You can hear your own thoughts. When I first moved to Naples, I would wake up, work out, walk to my Italian lesson. I would do 3 hours of Italian, and then I would finish around early afternoon. I'd walk back home, and then I would sit on the terrace with a little coffee and my sketchbook, and I would try to slow down. I was trying to be present, sketching, enjoying the romantic view in front of me. But in the back of my head, there was something saying, am I forgetting something? Am I allowed to be doing this? Am I allowed to be just present and sketching? There's always a part of me that was like, is this okay? Should I be using this time instead to be applying to remote jobs? Should I be networking with people on LinkedIn? Girl. This episode is for the overachieving girly who knows that they need to slow down but doesn't quite know how. Most Southern Italians will not be able to relate to this sensation, but I know that most American girlies can. Southern Italy is typically slower than Northern Italy, but Neapolitans are still not slow in every way. They drink their coffee, their espresso, really fast. The whole thing is al banco, 2 minuti, ciao. On the scooter, if you've ever been on a scooter in Naples, you'll know that the city isn't exactly known for its patience. But beyond that, things work at a different pace. Shopkeepers often close from 2 to 4. Many people go home for lunch for a siesta. Often work meetings will last several cafes. It's very typical to show up a little bit late to a meeting. In the evenings, you'll see people doing their passeggiatas. They're not doing hot girl walks. They're literally just on a stroll, enjoying being present. And people just don't really apologize for slowing down and taking time. And if you go to a smaller town in the countryside, where Marco and I have our country home, that pace of life is even slower. It's going into a different alternate reality where people go around on tractors and actually take the time to say hello to each other and remember each other's names. And when they ask, "Come stai?" it's not just a "Bene tu?" It's an actual long response. How are you? Well, blah, 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 blah. The thing that I had to address in the first few months of when I moved to Naples, and something that I'm still kind of navigating, is that for the very large majority of my life, for 25 years of my life, I identified my self-worth based on my accomplishments and productivity. Italy does not give up about that. The discomfort I felt wasn't really about the pace. It was about who I was without the pace. You may have heard the term la dolce vita, the sweet life. But something that I noticed is that living here in Italy versus visiting, I now have a very different definition of the sweet life. When you come as a visitor, we think of la dolce vita as indulgence. You're thinking, enjoying on the yacht and sipping aperitivo and getting el cornetto and looking at these incredible views and taking these photos, and there's just so much constant dopamine. But when you're actually living here, the definition of la dolce vita looks a little bit different. It is the small, intentional rituals that Italians, and specifically Southern Italians, put into their day. We never take coffee to go here. Coffee is often or made at home in your mocha pot, or you go to the bar and you have your caffè al banco, you have a little chiacchiere, a little chit chat. Often you might do both. People are very caffeinated here. Pranzo di Domenica, the Sunday lunch, it's not just about food, it is an event that kind of sets the tone for the whole week because it's time to get together with family. You have multiple courses, the whole thing lasts several hours. You finish with un amaro, for some cafe, for some po' di frutta. You have a passeggiata, you sleep on the couch, and nobody is in a hurry to go. You just linger until the sun starts to go down. The evening passeggiata, the stroll, it is not a walk with a destination. The walk is the whole point, just to be there in the fresh air, saying hi to your neighbors. It's easier to say hi to people with a dog because people are just more social and open when you have a fluffy pooch. Another phrase you might be aware of is il dolce far niente, the sweetness of doing nothing. And that is another thing that's not romanticized in Italy. It just is. Growing up in America, I was constantly dreaming of my future. When I was in high school, I was thinking about what college I'm going to go to. When I was in college, I was thinking about what job I'm going to do. When I was working, I was thinking about where do I see myself in 5 years? But here in Italy, I am learning how to really appreciate the present moment and, frankly, do nothing. Because before, I thought that I had to work hard to earn the opportunity to do nothing. But now I'm realizing if I'm tired, which I typically am from the hours of 2 to 4 p.m., I do nothing. I read a book, I relax, I meditate, I take a nap, I snuggle my puppy, and I have no guilt about it. Whereas before, I used to feel a little bit ashamed. In southern Italy, the table is a sacred space. Growing up in an Indian American household, we also shared this value. And for example, phones were not allowed at the tables. We would have every meal together as a family, but our meals still were quicker. And even when we went to a restaurant, Our meals would typically last an hour, let's say. We order everything at once. We don't really do apps. We would just order entrees, eat, and then be like, oh my God, we're so full, and then leave. But in Italy, things are a bit slower. A proper meal is a minimum of 2 hours. Of course, if you're eating at home, with the exception of the Sunday lunch, it might be a quicker meal. But when you go out to a meal with friends, that meal will take hours. And you almost always order multiple courses. You don't necessarily have to do every course option. Like, you don't have to do antipasto primo, secondo, dolce. For example, Marco and I go, we get 1 to 2 antipasti di condividere, to share. He'll get a primo, I'll get a secondo, and we share. And then we have a dessert to share. And that whole process takes time. And it's nice. You're not checking your phone. Conversation is filling the gaps. You're not wondering, where is our food and why is that waiter taking so long? And at the end of the meal, the waiter will not come and give you the bill. You have to ask for it. You have to say, posso avere il conto? Which I really like because you're encouraged to linger. They're not trying to just do turnover to get more money, get more tables in. They say, come, eat, stay. It's a totally different approach. When you are moving slowly, when your nervous system is regulated, when you are present, it opens you up to so many opportunities. I met my husband because I was just at a slow pasta lunch at a friend's house. I had come to Naples with no plans because I wanted to try just going with the flow and seeing what happens. Now, if I had done what many tourists come and booked, one place in Naples, several days in the Amalfi Coast, several days in Sorrento, everything's reserved, everything's planned out, I probably would not have had the opportunity to meet Marco and then have been available to just go on a date, get to know him, go to the Amalfi Coast, get to spend time with him. Slowness makes you available to things, but speed moves you right past them. Now, over 3 years of living in Naples, I have built a rhythm, a life schedule that my 5 a.m. yoga teaching self would not recognize. I wake up, meditate, journal, and walk my dog every morning. That is a non-negotiable. I pretty much never start working before 10 a.m. Awesome. And I almost always take a break at 2 p.m. And then comes 6 p.m., it's time for another dog passeggiata. And in the evenings, I love to play some music, drink a really good glass of wine, and cook a quality meal with fresh seasonal ingredients because I try to make an effort to just be present. And I am getting a lot better at it. I'll give myself a pat on the back. I am still growing my career. I do still have big dreams and big goals, and I am still productive, but the way I approach rest has completely changed. It is not something I earn at the end of a long and tiring week. It is something that I structure into every day to avoid burnout. Another thing that genuinely helped me slow down was learning the language. Because when you are able to speak Italian and also a little bit of Neapolitan, you are able to have impromptu, spontaneous conversations with locals around you. And it just allows you to be so much more in the moment. And you're not just going from the home to the bar to the store. You are making stops and enjoying the experience along the way. I have a couple different morning routes. I do have one morning route for when I just want to listen to a podcast and I don't want to be disturbed. I get it. But my social route, that's the route that I go and I stop at the bar. I say hi to friends to another bar. I go to the fruttivendolo. I go to the grocery store. That route takes me hours and I love it. Human beings need pause. all I have to say about that. I'm not going to tell you Italy fixed me. Old habits are persistent and sometimes life gets complicated. But what I will say is that Italy has changed me. And I know that's cheesy and it sounds like a quote from Eat, Pray, Love, but something genuinely shifted in now how I view a good day. Before, I used to view a good day by how accomplished I felt at the end of the day. Did I check all those little things off my to-do list? Now, when I think of a good day, it's how happy was I today? Because some of my favorite days, all of my favorite days, are days that I have had time to just be myself, to just swim in the sea. Maybe I'm playing cards with the old people at my social club, or baking at the local forno with the baker, or just reading a romance novel on the couch at home. I'm learning to be slower and I'm really enjoying it. There is a stereotype that Southern Italians are lazy. And sometimes when I look at the people in the public offices and at La Polizia, I might be getting that impression. But in my case, and your case as well, because you're probably a very productive, high-functioning girly, Italy did not teach me to be lazy, it taught me to be present. And presence is not the opposite of productivity. Presence is what makes a productive life feel like it was worth living. If you're thinking about a longer stay in Italy, whether that be slow travel or beginning to move to Italy, I would definitely encourage you to check out Southern Italy because food is amazing. We got great weather. And then also, the culture here is still very present. It hasn't been flattened by mass tourism. And the pace is genuinely different from the north. And I love visiting northern Italy, but I'm really grateful that I found my roots here in Naples. I have tons of Southern Italy resources on my blog. I will link it in the show notes. And if this video resonated with you, subscribe. I'm Ambi, and I put out a new video every week about what life in Southern Italy actually looks like. Ciao! Alla prossima!